Your remuneration no longer fits our revised pay framework, Chelsea Maddox stated evenly, her perfectly groomed hands resting on the gleaming meeting room table. A pair of security personnel lingered near the entrance, their stance leaving no doubt about the situation. This takes effect right away, I observed her, noticing the costly satin top and the meticulously practiced look of organizational remorse. Beneath that controlled exterior, I perceived her true thoughts, that I was merely another expense to be cut during the efficiency drive following the merger. I see, I answered, managing a calm smile. I hope things go well for you all. My name is Rachel Ellery. For the last 10 years, I directed the major accounts segment at Silverwood & Quill in Oakhaven, Vespuccia. Or more accurately, I used to. I established that unit from the ground up, nurturing connections with our principal customers, until my group accounted for 40% of the firm's yearly income. A decade of starting early and working late, foregoing holidays and rescheduling family events, all committed to ensuring our clients felt appreciated, and in under 15 minutes, it had all concluded. I collected my personal effects from my workspace, as my colleagues looked on, utterly astounded. Several of them had tears welling up. I embraced each one, offering quiet words of support and gratitude for their dedication. Then, I exited the premises without objection, maintaining my composure. As the glass entryways shut behind me, I inhaled deeply the fresh fall atmosphere. The security officer who had accompanied me, Marius, an employee of 12 years, whose daughter I had assisted in securing an internship the previous summer, appeared remorseful. I regret this, Ms. Ellery. It doesn't seem fair. It's all right, Marius. Transition is a component of commerce. Yet, on my drive back, the gravity of the event finally struck me. I had dedicated my all to Silverwood & Quill. I had put off beginning a family, was absent for my father's 70th birthday party, and powered through a bout of pneumonia to finalize our most significant deal, all because I had faith in our collective efforts. When the consolidation with Ethelred Acquisitions was made public 3 months prior, I had harbored doubts. Their business environment was infamous for its harshness, and whispers of their asset-stripping methods had been common in our field for ages. However, the leadership team had promised us that our firm's principles would be preserved. Now, the reality was clear to me. This extended beyond a mere salary dispute. Chelsea desired my clientele, but not the individual who had gained their confidence. She presumed those connections would effortlessly shift to my successor. I parked in my driveway, switched off the car, and a slight smile played on my lips. Chelsea Maddox was on the verge of discovering an important distinction between customers and genuine rapport. The initial phone call arrived while I was in the midst of unpacking my container of office possessions. It was Orion Blackwood, head of Blackwood Transit, one of our most substantial clients. Rachel, what on earth is happening? I've just been told you're no longer there. It's accurate, Orion. The new leadership has opted for a new strategy. New strategy? You've been our main contact for 7 years. You navigated us through that dreadful Asia-Pacific market entry. My directors have faith in you. I could detect the sincere worry in his tone, and it moved me. Orion and I had built a connection that surpassed the standard customer-supplier dynamic. When his spouse received a breast cancer diagnosis the previous year, I had put them in touch with the medical expert who, in the end, saved her. I value that, Orion. Truly. But organizations evolve, and their objectives do too. Well, our objective is to collaborate with individuals we rely on. I'm going to contact Chelsea Maddox directly. Comparable discussions occurred all day long. Every client conveyed surprise, bewilderment, and occasionally, overt displeasure. I made sure not to speak ill of Silverwood & Quill or Ethelred Acquisitions. It wasn't necessary. The circumstances were self-evident. That night, my husband Reese cooked supper while I perched at our kitchen counter, browsing through numerous messages from work associates and customers. "You seem to be handling this exceptionally calmly," he noted, pushing a glass of wine in my direction. "What benefit would there be in breaking down?" I retorted, although the reality was more complex. I had anticipated this possibility from the time the merger was declared. Ethelred Acquisitions had a typical modus operandi. They would take over firms with solid customer ties, dismiss the costly account directors, and gamble on clients remaining due to sheer momentum. This approach was successful frequently enough to become their usual practice, but they had erred in their judgment this instance. What Chelsea failed to grasp was that my clients weren't solely loyal to Silverwood and Quill. They were loyal to me. I was more than just a unit manager. I was the one who took their calls in the middle of the night when issues surfaced, who knew their children's names, who foresaw their requirements often before they did. "So, what's your strategy?" Reese inquired, understanding me well enough to know I would have something in mind. I had a little wine and pondered the non-competition term in my agreement. It was strict, yet not insurmountable. More significantly, I was certain which customers would come with me after it lapsed. For the time being, I planned to have a well-deserved rest. Perhaps we'll at last go on that Portuguese holiday we've discussed. I smiled, but my thoughts were already buzzing with potential ideas. Word of my dismissal rapidly circulated within Oakhaven's commercial circles. By the next day, my phone was flooded with messages from ex-colleagues, industry connections, and even rival firms conveying their astonishment. I dedicated the day to arranging my home workspace and replying to communications. About midday, Clara, my previous assistant, phoned. "It's bedlam here," she murmured. "Chelsea has been in urgent discussions since early morning." "That seems demanding," I commented dispassionately. "Rachel, she's informing everyone that you requested an excessive pay deal following the merger, that you were uncooperative." I chuckled lightly. "That's intriguing, given I wasn't even offered a chance to discuss terms. Everybody is aware it's false. Your group is incensed. We're all polishing our CVs." After our call ended, I leaned back, pondering. Chelsea was already constructing a story to rationalize my dismissal. It was foreseeable, yet lacking foresight. The customers understood me too well to think I would prioritize my own benefit above their requirements. Later that afternoon, an unanticipated guest arrived. Lysander Hawthorne himself, the 80-year-old originator of Hawthorne Endeavors, was at my doorstep. "I trust I'm not interrupting," he remarked as I answered the door, resting somewhat on his walking stick. "But certain discussions are better had in person." I welcomed him inside and prepared some tea. Lysander had been my initial significant client upon joining Silverwood and Quill. He had gambled on me while I was still establishing my reputation, and that confidence had developed into a bond that went beyond mere commerce. "I talked with Chelsea Maddox this morning," he mentioned, his aged hands cupping the teacup. "She gave me some foolish talk about reorganizing and pay deals. That appears to be the company story," I answered. "Rachel, I've been in this field for more than 50 years. I can tell when I'm being fed a line of untruths." He placed his cup down decisively. "Hawthorne Endeavors has partnered with Silverwood and Quill due to you. When my grandson faced issues with addiction, you located the recovery program that changed his life. When we had to adjust our strategy during the pandemic, you provided solutions, while others were in a state of alarm." He delved into his coat pocket and produced an envelope. "This is an official communication informing Silverwood and Quill that we are reevaluating our agreement. I wished for you to be aware before they are. Lysander, I am grateful for your steadfastness, but I prefer you not to base commercial choices on personal sentiment." He grinned, the lines near his eyes becoming more pronounced. "This is a commercial judgment. In your absence, the standard of service will diminish. It is as straightforward as that." After Lysander departed, I remained with the understanding that the initial piece had toppled, not due to my actions, but because connections founded on sincere concern and reliance possess their own impetus. The insight was simultaneously sobering and invigorating. I hadn't merely been performing a task all this time. I had been constructing something of immeasurable worth. 3 days following my dismissal, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. Rachel Ellery speaking. Rachel, this is Jenna Crow from Ethelred Legal. Her tone was abrupt, businesslike. We've observed some atypical interactions concerning our major accounts and wished to make contact. I walked over to my home office window, looking out at the sycamore tree in our front garden, its foliage changing to vibrant hues of amber and crimson. I am uncertain how I might assist with that, Jenna. I am no longer employed by the firm. Indeed, but we suspect you might be reaching out to our clients and possibly contravening the stipulations of your non-competition clause. I had foreseen this communication. Chelsea was feeling the strain and seeking a scapegoat. I have not sought any new business, nor have I approached any clients aiming to secure their patronage, I responded honestly. If clients have contacted me directly, that is their own choice. We have grounds to think you are deliberately weakening the company. That is utterly false, Jenna. I have conducted myself with complete professionalism, but I cannot dictate how clients respond to my exit. After a strained exchange, Jenna concluded with a barely disguised warning about judicial repercussions should I breach my agreement. I ended the call, unperturbed. Later that day, Reese returned home sooner than usual from his position as a lecturer at Vespuccia State University. I ran into Julian Vance at the cafe, he said, referring to a common acquaintance on Silverwood and Quill's board. He claims utter chaos is ensuing. It seems 4 significant clients have officially asked for discussions with the board regarding your dismissal. Truly, this occurred more rapidly than I anticipated. Julian mentioned Chelsea has attempted to manage it personally, but the clients are demanding the board's participation. They are doubting her decision-making. A faint smile touched my lips. That is noteworthy. He also said they held an urgent financial review. They are forecasting substantial deficits if these customers depart. During supper, we talked about the potential implications. Reese observed me with an insightful expression. You have a plan in mind, don't you? I wound pasta around my fork. Let's just state I am evaluating my alternatives. The reality was, I had used the day to investigate the requirements for launching my own advisory business. My non-competition clause barred me from directly approaching Silverwood and Quill's clients for 12 months, but it didn't stop me from creating my own enterprise. And if clients chose to join me after their contractual ties to Silverwood and Quill ended, well, that would be their prerogative. The following morning, Clara phoned once more. They are attempting to duplicate your client records, she stated. Chelsea has the account directors sifting through every exchange you recorded, endeavoring to reconstruct the connections. I almost chuckled audibly. My client documentation was thorough, indeed, but it could not convey the subtleties of bonds forged over time. They couldn't document how I recalled that Orion Blackwood's daughter had a shellfish allergy when arranging food for meetings, or how I consistently sent Lysander Hawthorne a bottle of his preferred whiskey on his birthday, or how I had assisted Vanguard Fabrications' CFO in managing a private difficulty that had jeopardized a significant transaction. How are they faring? I inquired. Dreadfully. Chelsea had a discussion with Blackwood Transit yesterday, which concluded with him shouting that perusing Rachel's notes is not equivalent to having Rachel. After ending the call, I accessed my laptop and resumed developing my business strategy. I named it Ellery Strategic Group. Uncomplicated and businesslike, I started outlining a website and devising service offerings. While I was occupied, my phone vibrated with a message from an unrecognized contact. This is Madison Vanguard from Vanguard Fabrications. Supper tomorrow evening? There's a matter I wish to talk about. Intriguing. Madison was Vanguard Fabrication's chief executive, a sharp strategist recognized for her straightforward manner. I would be very pleased, I replied, wondering what she intended. Madison selected a discreet, high-end eatery on the periphery of Oakhaven for our meal. She was already present when I got there, her face lighting up as I neared the table. "Rachel, I appreciate you joining me," she said, rising to give me a quick hug. "I've longed for our discussions." "It's merely been a week, Madison," I chuckled. "A week that felt excessive." She indicated for me to be seated. "I trust you won't object, but I've asked a few associates to be here." Before I could answer, I saw Orion Blackwood and Lysander Hawthorne being escorted to our table. Following them was Dominic Valenti, head of Valenti Systems, another of my previous principal clients. "What is happening?" I inquired as they settled in. "We are organizing an intervention," Orion stated with a smile that didn't fully conceal his earnestness, "for Silverwood and Quill." While having starters, they disclosed that every one of them had conferred with Chelsea Maddox and departed feeling dissatisfied. The board had contacted some of them personally, attempting to mitigate the situation, but the harm had already been inflicted. "She attempted to convince me your exit wouldn't impact our service quality," Dominic remarked, shaking his head, then failed to address fundamental queries about our forthcoming product introduction, details you've possessed for months. "The more significant problem," Madison interjected, "is reliance. How can we have faith in a firm that dismisses an individual like you with such disregard? It demonstrates a profound lack of comprehension regarding our reasons for engaging with them." I heard them out, moved by their allegiance, yet wary. "I value the backing, but I don't wish to be the cause for your organizations making choices that might not serve your optimal advantage." Lysander Hawthorne tapped his water tumbler with a spoon. "That is exactly why we are present, Rachel. This concerns our advantages." They had a proposal. They were aware of my non-competition clause, but also understood it would ultimately lapse. Meanwhile, they wished to ascertain if I intended to establish my own company. "We have deliberated this amongst ourselves," Orion clarified. "We are ready to see through your non-compete duration. Once it concludes, should you have your own advisory service, we aim to be your inaugural customers. We are not requesting you to breach any accords," Madison elucidated. "We are simply informing you that we will be assessing our alternatives when our agreements with Silverwood and Quill are due for renewal." I was astounded by their synchronized strategy. "What of your ongoing initiatives?" "We will honor our contractual commitments," Lysander stated, "but we will not be increasing our engagement with them. And when that moment arrives," the inference was unmistakable. They were extending a crucial support, a promised clientele once I was lawfully able to collaborate with them. When that period commenced, it was evident they were providing a secure foundation of clients as soon as my legal restrictions lifted. "This is quite overpowering," I conceded, in the most positive sense. Dominic leaned in. "There is something further. We have been speaking with other enterprises within our connections. There is considerable enthusiasm for your expertise, Rachel. Individuals who have learned of your methods, who desire that identical degree of focus and insight." As the meal continued, we studiously sidestepped any talk of definite plans or firm commitments that could infringe upon my agreement. Instead, our conversation covered market tendencies, their commercial hurdles, and my viewpoints on strategic development. By the time dessert arrived, I experienced a revitalized sense of mission. These were not merely customers lamenting the absence of a service supplier. They were partners who appreciated my contributions to their enterprises. As we readied to depart, Madison drew me to one side. "We've learned. Chelsea has been suggesting you were problematic during the changeover. We are all aware that is false, and we have communicated that unequivocally to the board." I journeyed home that evening, my thoughts whirling, The meal had affirmed my suspicions. The connections I had cultivated were robust enough to endure this shift. Furthermore, they signified a chance to craft something novel, something that genuinely mirrored my principles. When I entered the house, Reese glanced at my expression and understood. "Pleasant dinner? Transformative," I responded. The subsequent week introduced an unexpected turn. I got an email from Zachary Eastman, chairman of Silverwood & Quill's board, asking for a discussion. I consented, proposing we convene at a nonpartisan spot, a tranquil coffee shop close to the Whisperwind River. Upon my arrival, Zachary was already present, appearing noticeably more worn than when I had last encountered him at the firm's festive gathering half a year before. "Thank you for attending, Rachel," he stated, gripping my hand securely. "I value your readiness to converse." "Naturally, Zachary. How may I assist?" he exhaled, passing a hand over his gray hair. "I will be straightforward. The board is troubled by the customer reaction to your exit. We have obtained official communications from 6 principal accounts voicing their dissatisfaction and signaling a review of their agreements." I acknowledged with a nod, maintaining a composed demeanor. "I comprehend that must be difficult. It is beyond difficult. It is possibly disastrous." He leaned closer. "Rachel, the board believes your dismissal might have been precipitous. We wish to explore your reinstatement with the firm." I had anticipated this eventuality, yet hearing it still gave me a start. "In what role?" "We are ready to provide you with the advancement. Senior Vice President of Customer Connections," answering straight to the board. "A substantial pay rise, naturally. And Chelsea? She would continue as CEO, but your department would function with a large degree of independence." I took a mouthful of my coffee, mulling over his proposition. It was alluring, a form of justification, yet something about it felt amiss. What becomes of my colleagues, the individuals presently attempting to handle my client connections? Zachary paused. There would be a degree of restructuring, of course. In other words, those individuals would be marginalized to accommodate me. The identical, unfeeling method employed with me would be used on them. "I am grateful for the proposition, Zachary, but I must deliberate on it thoroughly." He appeared eased, evidently having anticipated an instant refusal. "Certainly. Use the weekend to ponder it." After his departure, I phoned Reese to convey the update. "Are you contemplating it?" he inquired. "I am unsure," I confessed. "It would be less demanding than beginning anew. But it would involve reporting to the woman who dismissed me unjustly within a corporate atmosphere that is diverging from all I hold dear." That night, another unexpected call came through from Clara. "I ought not to be sharing this," she started, her tone subdued. But Chelsea had another breakdown earlier. Vanguard Fabrications told her they are not renewing their agreement when it concludes next quarter. She is pointing fingers at everyone except herself. "How are you managing?" I inquired, worried about my previous colleagues. "Things are deteriorating. 2 of the client directors have already resigned. The remainder of us are merely struggling to prevent a total collapse." After our conversation, I remained in my home workspace for an extended period, reflecting. The board's proposals signified the simpler route, a return to what I knew, coupled with the contentment of Chelsea admitting her error. Yet going back would entail sacrificing the concept that had been taking shape in my thoughts since my dismissal. Ellery Strategic Group could be distinctive, an organization that genuinely valued connections above dealings, that viewed customers as collaborators rather than the sources of income. I picked up my telephone and called Zachary's number. "I have reached my conclusion," I informed him when he picked up. "I am grateful for the proposition, but I have to refuse. Rachel, I urge you to rethink. My choice is settled, Zachary, but I extend my best wishes to you and the firm." As I ended the call, a burden seemed to lift from me. Occasionally, the most challenging choices are those that ultimately grant us liberation. Half a year went by swiftly. I dedicated that period to carefully constructing the groundwork for Ellery Strategic Group. I obtained an office in a refurbished heritage property in the city center, created an extensive service framework, and recruited a compact yet skilled group, encompassing Clara and 2 other ex-colleagues who had departed from Silverwood and Quill. I was diligent in strictly observing my non-competition clause, concentrating on fostering connections with enterprises not part of Silverwood and Quill's clientele. News traveled fast in Oakhaven's commercial sphere, and I began receiving queries from firms I had no prior engagement with. Concurrently, the circumstances at Silverwood and Quill kept worsening. Via informal channels, I learned that Blackwood Transit had diminished their agreement by 60%. Hawthorne Endeavors had redirected all fresh initiatives to different providers. Vanguard Fabrications had chosen not to renew their contract whatsoever. On the morning my non-competition clause formally ended, I awoke with a strange sense of composure. This was the day I had been aiming for, yet there was no requirement for bold actions. The preparatory work was complete. I reached the office ahead of time and had just gotten comfortable at my desk when the phone chimed. "Is this the day?" Orion Blackwood inquired directly. I grinned. "It is." "Splendid. I am forwarding the agreement we talked about. We have reserved this particular project for you." By midday, I had gotten comparable calls from Madison, Lysander, and Dominic. By the week's close, Ellery Strategic Group had finalized agreements with 5 previous Silverwood and Quill customers, amounting to almost $2 million in yearly income. I had not enticed away a single client. It hadn't been necessary. They had approached me voluntarily, exactly as we had envisioned during that dinner 6 months prior. The most gratifying instance occurred when my assistant passed on an email dispatched to my new firm's address. It originated from Chelsea Maddox, seeking a meeting to explore possible joint ventures. I courteously refused. A year after my dismissal, Ellery Strategic Group had expanded to a staff of 15, catering to 22 clients in diverse sectors. We had relocated to more spacious premises and were cultivating a standing for superior quality and uprightness. I was examining quarterly forecasts when Clara tapped on my office door. "You have someone waiting," she mentioned, appearing somewhat uneasy. "Chelsea Maddox." I arched an eyebrow. "I don't remember scheduling a meeting with her." "You haven't. She simply arrived and demanded to see you." I let out a sigh. "Show her in." Chelsea came into my office, her appearance much less refined than on the day she had dismissed me. Her assured stance had vanished, supplanted by a strained, nearly frantic aura. "Rachel, I appreciate you agreeing to see me," she started, occupying the chair opposite my desk uninvited. "How can I help you, Chelsea?" She inhaled deeply. "I'll be frank. Silverwood and Quill is in difficulty. We've experienced a 40% loss in income since you left. The board is contemplating severe actions, including a possible divestment of the firm." I paused, sensing there was more to come. I wished to suggest a consolidation of our firms. Your customer connections allied with our operational framework could be formidable. The incongruity was nearly flawless. "A consolidation," I echoed. "Correct. With you assuming a prominent position, naturally." I observed her, identifying the urgent need fueling her suggestion. This wasn't concerning partnership. It was about staying afloat. "I fear that will not be feasible," I stated at last. "Our organizations possess vastly different philosophies regarding commerce and customer engagement. Our firms have deeply contrasting methods for business and client interactions. Rachel, I implore you. I genuinely hope for the best for you, Chelsea. However, my response is negative." As she departed, I experienced no sense of victory or justification, merely a calm reassurance that I had chosen correctly in building something fresh, instead of attempting to mend what was damaged. The retribution I had envisioned was not found in observing Silverwood and Quill's difficulties, but in the prosperity I had cultivated from scratch. I had demonstrated my worth not via conflict, but through steadfastness and attentiveness. I discovered that at times the most potent reaction is not to retaliate, but to progress, and in that advancement, I discovered not merely achievement, but contentment.